Y'all see the picture? You see the sign? Finish line just ahead. Guys, today is your last day of learning about a different type of multiplicative comparison problem. It's been a long little journey so far, and I told you that they were going to be, they were a beast. The multiplicative comparisons are not easy. We have had, let's count them out. We've had some where we had the large number, had to figure out the small. We had some where we had the small number, had to figure out the large. We had some where we had to figure out how many times as many. We were given both numbers. We've had some where we were given the total. And then the fifth type today is where we're going to be asked what the total is. So this one's really a combination of the first two that we did with an extra step. Luckily for you, you've seen these before. You've seen them in Fantastic Five. If you've been watching the Fantastic Five videos, this is nothing new to you. So to me, this is more of a reading issue than a math issue. I think the math's going to be really good. It's going to come down to whether or not you are reading these questions, because you're not going to be given answer choices. You don't need them. I trust your math. I'm just really worried you're not going to read these questions. So the way I've been doing the multiplicative comparison videos on Canvas, I'm going to do 3 of them, just where I'd like you just to watch. And then the last 2 is where you'll listen, pause, solve it, then press play, come back and see if you solved it and got the answer correct. And then once you finish watching this, you've got a multiplicative comparison sheet where you can show me what you know. 8 or 10 questions, I honestly don't remember. So these first 3 is where you can just watch. Really, if you want to pause and solve for all of them, you can, just to see. But if you want to just watch the first couple just to kind of get an idea of what we're doing, that's fine too. All right, so Tony hit 5 home runs. Javi hit 4 times as many home runs as Tony. It wants to know how many home runs did they hit in all. So again, this is a mix of the first 2 that we did. This is one where it gave us the small number, and we've got to figure out the large number. But the large number is not what we're going to be getting to answer the question. The question wants to know how many they hit in all. So the small number is still important because it's going to help me get my big number. But once I get there, I can't stop. When I see 4 times as many, obviously I know I'm doing my multiplicative comparisons. I'm going to pull out Javi. I'm going to pull out Tony. If I can get this to work. Yes, I can. All right, so here's Tony. Here's Javi. And I know that Javi's going to get 4 boxes because he hit 4 times as many home runs as Tony. So 4 boxes for Javi. And automatically Tony gets 1. Now, the other piece of information that I get here can change depending on what the questions say. It's not always going to be the same. It says Tony hit 5 home runs. Okay, that means Tony's boxes have got to be equal to 5. Now, if he had more than 1 box, I would take that 5 and divide it. But he's only got 1 box, which means I'm just going to definitely put 5 in there, and then 5 in all of Javi's boxes. So I already know that he had 5, but now I know that Javi has 20. You could have added those up. You could have skip counted. You could have multiplied 5 times 4. When it's asking how many home runs they hit in all, you need to put stars beside both of them. Both of those numbers are important. All right, so I got to take the 5 from Tony, the 20 from Javi, and add them together, and I would get 25. So again, the math to me, not really hard there. You just got to read what the question's asking. But I think a lot of people who don't do the box method are going to put 20 because they're going to see the number 5. They're going to see 4 times. They're going to do 4 times 5 and put 20. And we saw that all last week. We saw people who weren't using the box method and just trusting their math, which is great, only doing an equation and getting the question wrong because they're not given the right info. And it doesn't take me very long to do the box method. That's why I just think it's so worth it to try it that way. All right, so we're moving on to number 2. This one says, Samantha sold 28 boxes of Girl Scout cookies. That is 4 times as many boxes as Amanda sold. How many boxes of cookies have they sold combined? So I see 4 times as many. Multiplicative comparison. We're comparing Samantha's cookies to Amanda's cookies. So let me pull them out. And these pictures are the hardest to draw. It doesn't come out and give you a name and say Samantha or Amanda sold 4 times as many. It says that. So you got to determine who that is. Well, guys, if you kind of take that, I think Ms. G's probably talked to you about CC, sub it out, like take a word, replace it. Let's replace that with a name. let's say we thought it was Amanda. If we thought that Amanda sold 4 times as many, would it make sense for it to say Amanda sold 4 times as many boxes as Amanda? That logically doesn't make sense. You're not going to sell 4 times as many as yourself. Now, that is referring to Samantha because it can say Samantha sold 4 times as many boxes as Amanda sold. And if you just read it and flow with it, Samantha sold 28 boxes of Girl Scout cookies. That is 4 times as many as Amanda sold. All those signs point to show us that Samantha's going to get 4 boxes and Amanda gets 1. Get the picture wrong, you'll miss it. All right, so now it says Samantha sold 28 boxes of Girl Scout cookies. That's the other information that it gave us. That does not mean I put 28 in each of her boxes. That just means that her picture's got to be equal to 28. So this is where I've been given the big number. Now I got to figure out the small number. That 28, now I got to figure out what's going in each box. I got to take those 28 boxes and I got to split them between Samantha's boxes. The reason I do 28 divided by 4 and not 28 divided by 5 is because that 28 had nothing to do with Amanda. So if you know your facts, 28 divided by 4, that's going to give you 7 in each box, including Amanda's. So again, how many boxes have they sold combined? Got to be some addition here. Both of them are going to get a star. I've got 28 here. I've got 7 here. If I added those two together, I'd have 35 boxes. So this is one where I hope people don't see 28 and 4 times and do 28 times 4 and just get a big, massive number. Sorry, I hope you don't see that. There we go. But again, just the box method, it helps every time. All right, one more that I'm going to do, and I'm going to have you pause and solve. It says Arthur worked 8 hours this week. Doug worked 6 times as many hours as Doug worked. Nope. Arthur worked. I would go back to the last question where I would say it just logically doesn't make sense. Doug worked 6 times as many hours as Arthur worked. How many hours have they worked in all? 6 times as many means I'm going to pull these two cats out for a multiplicative comparison problem. And since it says Doug worked 6 times as many hours, old Dougie's going to get 6 boxes. Arthur's going to get 1. And the only other number or piece of information that it gave me was that Arthur worked 8 hours. His picture's got to be equal to 8. And since he's only got 1 box, we're going to put 8 in there. And we're going to put 8 in the rest of them. That's supposed to be an 8. All right, so that means I already knew that Arthur worked 8. We got that one. I could figure out how many Doug worked. I could add all those 8s, or I could do 8 times 6. Either way, I'd get 48. Hopefully people are not saying 48 is the answer, because that question does not ask how many hours Doug worked. It says how many did they work in all. In all meaning we got to add those together. And if I did 48 plus that other 8 from Arthur, I would get 56. Honestly, once you get to this point, if you knew you had to do that addition, you could take all the 8s and just multiply 8 times 7. But as long as you're reading that question and you're adding or multiplying, it won't matter as long as you're doing that math correctly. So that would be 56. Now, if those 3 make sense, awesome. Try the next 2. If they don't, maybe just watch me solve 4 and 5. And if those don't make sense, don't just say, oh, I don't get it. Let me do that multiplicative comparisons worksheet. If these 5 questions are confusing to you, they don't make sense, please send me an email so we can maybe Zoom and work out some of those questions on those sheets together. I don't want you just to dive into it if you're not comfortable doing it. So 2 more questions right here. You decide whether you want to pause and solve or if you just feel more comfortable watching. But moving on, number 4, it says Lily slept for 4 hours. That is twice as many hours as Sydney. How many hours have they slept total? Again, if somebody tells you to do something twice, they told you 2 times. So we can replace that twice with 2 times. So 2 times as many, multiplicative comparison. I know I'm comparing Lily's sleep to Sydney's sleep. And again, it doesn't say who slept twice as many hours. It just says that. So replace it. If we think that it's Sydney, Sydney slept twice as many hours as Sydney, doesn't make sense. It's got to be the other person. Lily slept twice as many hours as Sydney would mean that Lily got 2 boxes and Sydney got 1. All right, the other piece of information that it gave me was that Lily slept for 4 hours. So not 4 in each box, just her picture's got to be equal to 4. And I've got to split those 4 hours between Lily's boxes, not Sydney. Those 4 hours got nothing to do with Sydney. So if I did 4 divided by 2, that would give me 2 in each box, including Sydney's box. So if I know that Lily slept for 4, Sydney slept for 2, and it wants to know how many hours they slept total, meaning I need to add those two together, 4 plus 2 would give me 6. The answer I'd really hope not to see on that one would be 8, because that would just be somebody going 4 times 2, getting 8. Box method, box method. All right, last one that I will show you, and then I want you to go see if you can knock out those total unknown sheets or questions on that sheet. It says Dina studied for her final exam for 15 days. That was 3 times as long as Tammy studied. How many days did they study in all? So 3 times as long, multiplicative comparison. I'm comparing the time that Dina studied to Tammy. You've got to figure out that picture because it says that. It doesn't give us a name. But if you plug Dina in right there, Dina studied 3 times as long as Tammy. That makes a lot of sense. Dina would get the 3 boxes. Tammy would automatically get the 1. And now we've got to figure out what to do with that other number that it gave us. It says Dina studied for 15 days. Okay, so I know that Dina's picture's got to be equal to 15 days. And I've got to take those 15 days and split them between Dina's 3 boxes because they've got nothing to do with Tammy's picture. All right, knowing your facts, 15 divided by 3 would give you 5 for each box, including Tammy's. And again, it wants to know how many did they study in all. I could take Dina's 15, Tammy's 5, and that would give me 20. So I'm pretty optimistic on these just because you've been doing them for so long. And if you're using that box method and the strategies I've been showing you, you should be good. But again, if you're not feeling good, don't do that sheet. Shoot me an email. Go to the Meet the Teacher page on my homepage. It'll take you to a link straight to my email that you can send me, and we can work it out. But if you feel good about those, go ahead and take care of business. I'm sure you'll do great. Box method, box method, box method. All right.